is Sunday, 23rd of November 2025, and today we're super excited to say that we're going to try something a little bit different on the channel. For those that know the channel, obviously you know that it's about model making and mental health and that sort of thing. And today we're going to talk about health. And funnily enough, as a t-shirt might suggest, a little bit of heart health. So I've roped in someone that some of you may know and some of you won't. Absolutely won't. And it's all going to be about health. So anyway, without further ado, let me introduce, this is Sallie Crawley. She is here. Hi, Sallie, how are you?
Hi, James. I'm doing good. Thank you very much.
I so hope I didn't muller your surname. Yeah, Sally's here today. We're going to talk about heart health and the mental health impact that may have as well, and that sort of thing. And we're going to cover lots of bits and pieces in a fairly short period of time. We're going to be talking for about an hour or so. And I can already see people saying hello, etc. I will come to you at some point. But yeah, keep popping up saying hello, etc. And like I said at the beginning, in the chat, you'll see that if you have any questions, pop some questions in as we go along. But why don't we kick it off, Sallie? So thank you first of all for being with me. I'm so pleased. We've not known each other for a long time, but we share something, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, so as you've said, I'm Sallie Crawley. I'm 61 years old. But my heart journey started back in 2016 when I first of all ruptured my Achilles, and then 4 weeks later went on to have a heart attack that I didn't know was a heart attack for 3 days.
Yeah. Yes, similar sort of journey to myself in respect to the heart side of things. I didn't hurt my leg because I'm aware how you did that through exercise, which I don't do. That's wrong, totally wrong.
I've given it up
now. But yeah, so I had a double heart attack as well, and was completely unaware of it at the time. So yeah, that took us on this journey. So obviously, it says with you on the screen there, your name. Tell me a little bit more about how the heart health and mental health connects to what you do now.
Okay, so I was a therapist for a number of years. So that's a mental health therapist. I'm a hypnotherapist, neuro-linguistic program practitioner, and I have a lot of other things and life coaching. So when I had my heart attack, when I got sent home from hospital, I thought it was going to be a breeze. I thought they fixed my body. I could just go home, have a couple of days sleep, maybe a bit of rest, and then I'd be back to the workplace and getting on with life. And I was so wrong. It absolutely floored me. It wasn't so much the physical stuff, although I did have to crawl up the stairs on my hands and knees at first because my heart was very weak, needed time to recover. But it was the emotional impact. I couldn't, for somebody that actually helps other people with their emotions, I was unable to help myself. I would sit for days crying. I was depressed and I didn't know why. I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't like anything. I was terrified to leave the house. I became I just very much not the person that I was before. What I found, long story short as possible for this question, is I found that it was literally they fixed my body, but there was no one there to help me fix my mind. And there was not a lot of conversation around the trauma that having a heart attack or heart surgery or cardiac arrest actually does. So I decided that once I was better, and this is all part of my journey, I was going to focus on supporting people that had cardiac events or were living with heart disease in one way, shape or form or other. So that is where I actually spend my time and my effort, helping people like myself and like James deal with the emotional fallout.
Yeah, so just for those that are watching, and again, people will know, certainly some will know me and some might not, but for me personally, my journey started when I obviously went to hospital, found out I'd had a heart attack or two, then was diagnosed with the need for a triple bypass. My family history is riddled with heart events, etc. And I too thought, I think the quote to the doctor was, because the surgeon said to me, "Have you got any questions?" as they always do. And I went, no, I'm sure it's fine. It's just like having your tonsils out.
Oh my goodness, so you were so wrong.
You know, I am man enough literally to say, yeah, I really didn't know what I was talking about. And the impact, the absolute impact that has had, and the amount of time that it has taken to recognize and deal with segments of that journey is floored me. I think, with using your own words, definitely, but also astonished me that no one talks about this. You know, the surgeons never, they'd never expressed to me that there may be issues, or, I mean, obviously the side effects, of course, of, you know, we're going to open up your chest and stop your heart. So you could survive, or you probably will, but you might not. You know, that's pretty much all that I was told. Was that same for you at the beginning of that journey?
Well, mine was slightly different because I didn't have heart surgery. So there wasn't really much. I was actually right in the middle. You were consented into that, whereas I was literally. So I live near Papworth Hospital, or the old Papworth Hospital. My doctor's surgery was in Papworth, and I'd only gone to my doctor because I had indigestion. That was the only symptom really that I had. So the story kind of literally went, the doctor just did a general checking my heart and everything, and then suddenly went, I think you need an ECG. Popped me into the nurse's room. The nurse went quiet mid-conversation with me, said, I'll be back in a moment, popped back to see with the doctor, and they said to me, you either have an ulcer, which we highly doubt, but we do believe you're having a heart attack. And my words were, if it's all right with you, I'll have the ulcer. You can keep the heart attack.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it wasn't that way. So I was sent from Papworth surgery to Hinchinbrook Hospital. And when I got into Hinchinbrook Hospital, they really read me the riot act because I had a full blockage. But because I was on blood thinners for my leg being in plaster, it had allowed some of the blood flow to reorganize itself, so it was getting through. But they just did not understand why I hadn't asked for help sooner. From there, I was blue lighted to Papworth, and all I remember then was feeling in shock and not knowing what was going on. And it was a bit like out of Holby City. I don't know if you've ever watched that. They were whizzing me out of the ambulance, and they were consenting me as I was going into the cath lab. And I didn't know what I was agreeing to until I was actually on the table and had the wires up through my arm and into my heart. So, you know, the risks and everything weren't front of mind kind of thing. But in heart, because also they never gave me anything in writing, they had to do it verbally because they couldn't even get a signature out of me. So at the time, for me, I was more in shock by it all and not understanding what was happening because nobody really explained it, like you were saying. And to carry the conversation on a bit further, even when I was at cardiac rehab, no one discussed how the mental health side of it was going to be harder work than anything else. I think I had a short little paragraph in a booklet about stress and anxiety, and a recorded relaxation breathing technique to listen to, but that was it. I didn't know what it was that I didn't have because nobody really started that conversation with me. So your heart surgery, I can only imagine that you were as traumatized by the heart attacks, the surgery and everything, that none of it made sense to you.
See, it's weird because I literally went through the process because what the trigger was for me was that I was speaking to a friend of mine that worked for the ambulance service he was the person that takes the 999 calls, and I just happened to say to him, I check my blood pressure regularly because of other medical issues and bits and pieces, nothing major. I've had a stent before, so angiogram was, I've had a couple of those previously, so nothing new. But the trigger was the fact my pulse was a little bit low, and I mean a little bit low. And I mentioned it to my friend in passing, literally just tossed it into the conversation and walked on past. And he went, "Whoa, go back a minute. What did you mean about your pulse?" So I said, "Oh, no, it's down by a couple of points. No, nothing major. Or you need to get that checked." Don't be so stupid. My blood pressure is really good. It's just, it's not an issue. Yeah, no, you go and get it checked. And I ummed and basically a couple of days went past, and he sent me a message. What was the results? You haven't done it yet. I told you to check it. Please check it. So I phoned 111, and 111 went, "Yeah, you need to go and see your GP." And I'm like, "Oh, whatever. Yeah, fine. I'm on a late shift." Phoned my boss up and said, "Look, 111 told me to go to the GP, but I can only get an appointment while I'm at work. Can I sneak away from work to do the appointment?" Yeah, no problem. I explained it all, no problem. Went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you need to go to A&E. And I was like, "What? Don't be so silly." Like, no, you need to go to A&E. We can call an ambulance, or and I don't call an ambulance. No, don't do that. I can get to the hospital myself. "Oh, you can't drive?" And I was like, no, there's someone in the car. "Oh, is that? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, just get them to drive you straight to the ambulance." "Okay, yeah," I said, "no problem." Because it will save waiting for an ambulance. They're busy. I can get there. It's fine. So I got in the car where no one was sitting and drove to work and finished my shift. And then I told my wife and told her. I didn't tell my boss. Done my shift, finished the shift, locked up the place where I worked because I was the last one to finish. On the way to hospital, phoned my wife and said, "Oh, well, I'm just going to A&E, love." "Yes," she said. "Yeah, great. Enjoy the next few hours of life wasted for no reason." Which we both literally thought that was what was going to happen. And I was I was there a long time until about 4:00 in the morning when on the second attempt, the doctor came in to tell me that there was an issue, and her boss literally pulled back the curtain and went, "Yeah, you've had a heart attack. Not going anywhere," and shut the curtain. And I was like, for me, a lot of people, when I tell this story, a lot of people go, "Oh, that's awful." No. For me, that's perfect because that's totally my sense of humor. It's totally, I'm on that wavelength. It's not a problem. And if you've got really crappy news, it's the best way of breaking it. Really is. So I just went, "Oh, okay. What do you mean about a heart attack?" And it's with clear signals that you've had a heart attack, possibly more. I said, "What do you mean more?" She said, "We think you've had 2. "Oh, okay. So what next?" And she sort of said, "Well, you're not going home." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Interesting. We're waiting for a bed for you." Okay. So yeah, that was the start of the journey. So yes, there was shock. Yes, there was some stress behind it. Obviously, I phoned the wife and went, "You ain't never going to believe this. I'm not coming home." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I've had a heart attack. And she's like, "What?" Said, "I'm not coming to work. I'm really sorry." "Why is that?" "I've had a heart attack." "Oh my God, really? How did you know that?" And so I explained the whole story. And she's like, "What the hell? What do you mean you went back to work?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't know." So and then I sat in a ward for several weeks, waiting. Basically, I got my angiogram quite quickly. Done at Basildon, a great hospital, great staff, and the guy went, "Yeah, it's a triple bypass." I was like, "Oh, okay." And as I'm driving back to the hospital where I was actually going to be for the next however long, it was a small amount of realization of, "Oh, okay, that's a bit more serious than I thought." But it was still okay. I was still within control. It's not a problem. I was safe. That was the main thing.
But was there? So did you have the heart attacks, get stents, go home, and then had another one, or were you continually?
So they say they believe that I had two heart attacks before I presented myself at hospital. Once I presented myself at hospital, I wasn't allowed to go home. That was it.
Right.
I had
Okay,
to
so
stay
you had
there.
a long haul stay then.
Yeah, so I was there for 2 or 3 weeks, I think it was in the end. But so I got the angiogram relatively quickly, within a week, I guess, or something like that. I was put onto a heart ward, so there were people whizzing backwards and forwards. I say whizzing, they weren't really. They're all going for the same procedures. Got to know the staff very well. I did an episode or two of a podcast from there with my friend because I just had nothing better to do. Played lots of silly games with the nurses and stuff, and generally felt okay. So I wasn't in pain. It was just if something's going to have to happen, it's fine. And my surgeon sort of said to me, he said, we're going to need to do this operation, etc., etc. Okay, fine. We're going to get you in as quickly as we can. It's a bit of a waiting list, but you're not going home until you're seen and done. Okay, but you need to stop smoking. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And he went, no. If you don't stop, I don't do the surgery. Oh, okay, fine. I'm going to think about that while I go and have a fag. Which is exactly what I did. On that note, let me just quickly say that Scowl Model Ninja is said, I've had 3 heart attacks in the past and never had any support after. I know how my I can't say that word.
Myocardial
infection that I will have for the rest of my life. Yeah, it is quite unbelievable in respect to that. So anyway, there's our journeys. There where we're starting. Obviously, I've gone off for my surgery, come out of my surgery, feeling a little worse for wear, feeling like I've been run over by a bus, literally, and very, very uncertain of everything. And I think this is where the impact, Sally, for me is, because I totally underestimated what the impact would be. It hit me so hard because I just couldn't believe that my father had gone through several surgeries. My mum had gone through surgeries, and I just didn't realise it. Yeah, I could see they were in pain. They had meds and all that sort, but I didn't realise that the impact is just mind-blowing. So
I don't think anybody ever does, James. Myself, I had a friend who in 2000 had a heart attack, and I went to see him in hospital. I was pregnant at the time with my daughter, and literally, hindsight being the 2020 vision that it is, I really berate myself for not actually realizing just what kind of terror he was going to be going through and what it was going to be like when he was discharged. Because there's some kind of safety when you're in the hospital, isn't it? It's almost like you're cocooned. But as soon as you leave hospital, you're on your own, and it's like being cut free and trying to struggle. But yeah, like you, I do have deep regret that I never really appreciated how it affected people. And that's why I do what I do now, because obviously I can't make it up to my friend Ian, but there are so many people, men particularly, because they have this, I mustn't share, I need to be stiff upper lip and all the rest of it, but they sit at home. Sorry, you guys listening, if you've had a heart attack, you will cry, you will have the roller coaster rides up and down, you will be angry, you will almost bargain a little bit. I found myself bargaining that if I did quit smoking, because like you, I was a smoker, then it was going to all get better and I wasn't going to have any of this. Well, that wasn't true. The damage was done. So yeah, I can really appreciate how you must have felt about your parents, James,
and I think
the shock to yourself.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well, I mean, I'm just reflecting as we're listening to you and thinking to myself, do you know what? When I woke up from the surgery, I've never felt like that before. I've had some minor surgery, but never anything like that. And it was just, I can't even explain it. It was just overpowering. And the only thought process I had at the time was, I'm only going to be here for 2 or 3 days and then I'm going home, because they told me that's how they progress through the system. You know, once you've done the surgery, that's fine. There's no infection, etc., etc. The next day they want you to get out of bed. You've got pipes hanging out of you. You've got catheter You know, I'll be shy. I didn't mean to do that while you were drinking. Sorry, but
sorry.
yeah,
It went together there, didn't it?
you're like an astronaut walking around with stuff, going, "Oh, really?" And you still feel like you've got the bus on top of you as well. By the way, so you know it's not comfortable. And all the time I'm thinking, oh, yeah, a couple of days I'll be out of here, no problem. Now, I had a little bit of a turn after I came out of hospital. Not out of hospital, sorry. That's another part. While I was hospital, I had a little bit of turn. I relapsed a little bit before I got better enough to start walking around and stuff. So, and I had people, I'll be careful because it's close to Sunday lunchtime and I don't want to upset anybody. But it was an unpleasant experience being in a room with 4 other men who didn't just have the problem with the heart. Let's put it that way. I think would be the best way. So obviously meds can affect you in many different ways. Quite explosive and awful for the person that happens to. I didn't have that, luckily, but a couple did. But so yes, you've got all that to deal with as well. And then obviously you start walking around thinking, oh, actually, no, I can walk to the end of my bed. It's fine. I can walk to the toilet. That's not a problem. I can walk to the down the hall a little bit and back and stuff. And I was told all the time, walk. When you get out, walk. All you got to do is walk. And then when you finish walking, walk a bit more. And then when you finish walking a bit more, walk a bit more after that. That's all they basically said. So of course, I've got to that point. I'm actually 4 days after the operation. I'm like, I can go home. Cool. So I've been moved from the room I was in to another room for kicking me out. I've basically got some transport. I'm waiting for transport to take me home. And I'm like, oh, do you know, I'm gagging for a coffee. It's all right if I go downstairs and get a coffee. No. What do you mean, no? You can't go downstairs and go get a coffee. Well, you're sending me home, so what difference does it make? I'll be fine. So literally, I'm walking down a corridor, along another corridor and down a lift. And at the end of that journey of the lift is a Costa coffee, right? And back up. That's it. So we're talking probably no more than, I would say, 50 steps. Yeah. You know, not far. I stopped halfway on the way back because I didn't think I was going to make it back. So even then, at that point, I still hadn't taken on board the gravity of what had just happened and the journey in front of me as well. So, but what I wanted to do, go on, sorry.
I was going to say, part of that is what gets us through. So for me, it was the realization that I was not invincible, that actually I wasn't going to live forever, because for some reason, up until my heart attack, I just thought, you know, I know we're all going to die, but it didn't mean anything. But having that having a life-threatening condition changes that, and that fight that you had of, I'm going to go and do it because I've got to do it, because I want to do it, because I think I can do it, is the thing that gets us through.
Yeah.
You know, if we just let go and, you know, give up the fight, that's when it is really hard, which unfortunately it was, despite all of my training, it was how I was when I actually got home. You know, once I realized that I couldn't walk up the stairs, or not that I could because I had plaster cast, but I couldn't get up the stairs without stopping halfway, it suddenly brought home my mortality. Yeah. So I totally get that. You know, good on you for keeping on trying despite the warnings not to.
Yeah, and you know, the most hilarious part of that small segment of that journey was when I got back to the ward. Obviously, it's a locked door.
Yeah.
I'll ring a doorbell, and they're busy. You know, so I'm literally standing there going, oh, I got a coffee, but I want to sit down. So I ended up walking back to the end of the corridor, which was like 10 paces or so, and sitting down with a nurse that was on a break. and drinking my coffee, and they said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Oh yeah, I can't get in. They're busy. It's fine." "Oh, I'll let you in." No. Really, it's fine. I just got to sit here. It's really great. Yeah. But yeah, so one of the things in which I think is really, really important we cover, you know, and I just want to highlight that again. I actually know this person, Steve from Totally Scaled Models. He says, unless someone has spent a long period of time in hospital, they never really fully understand the impact it has on you, on your life. And yeah, he's absolutely spot on. But talking about impact, what I wanted to really cover is something that I didn't know anything about, and something that has shaped my journey massively is this thing called pump head, or post perfusion syndrome. Let's get some meat on the bones about this, because it's really, really important, I think, that we have this conversation, because we're talking about mental health. And one of the things, one of the best ways I can explain this syndrome, this thing that's recognized to a point, but not, and certainly not discussed, is in your body, you've got two magnetic fields. You've got one in your head and you've got one in your heart, which the heart one is the one that's the more powerful one, strangely. I find that strange, but that's how it is. But of course, when you have this open heart surgery thing, they turn it off and have a machine take over, which you think, well, that's fine. It's not. Well, no, it's not as simple as that. If you go back to your physics when you were back at school, with your ponytails and all that sort of stuff. Not that I can remember that.
You don't have that problem now.
Not now. No, I used to have one here, but anyway. So the going back to your physics and your batteries and magnetic fields and how they work. So when you turn one off, the other one thinks, "Whoa, it's all mine. I can take over and become a little bit more powerful, a little bit more bold, if you like." And then some bright spark turns the machine off and switches your heart back on, and then the fields start playing with each other, which causes all sorts of problems. So that seems to be a really good place to talk about the mental side of things. Sally, what do you know? What do you think about that?
So I personally haven't experienced pump head because my heart wasn't stopped. I wasn't put onto the post perfusion machine. But there, I have done some research into it because I'm actually quite fascinated. There's some similarities since my heart attack. I have far more heart. Sorry, excuse me, falling over my words. Fatigue than I used to have.
Yeah.
I have damaged heart muscle, which is possibly the cause for it. Mm-hmm. I have issues remembering things. I particularly have a problem with people's names. Even people that I know really well, I could have used their name in one part of the conversation, and then a few sentences later, I try to use it again. And for the life of me, I can't remember it. Mm-hmm. I seemed, my brain seems to be, it's almost like it's restarted, restopped, whatever it is, has it impacted the lack of blood flow, perhaps. There is huge research about pump head, which is what you're describing. And there is yet no one, this is what it is, this is what causes it. It has been discussed that it's tiny little bits of metal from the machine that have been going into people's brains and blah, blah, blah. There are the, like you're talking about, the magnetic fields that there are, but there's still nobody that says this is what causes it. My personal opinion, and it is actually something that I'm really interested in enough to want to research, is, has it got something to do with the limbic system, the old part of our brain? So that part of our brain is our fight or flight, freeze, fawn kind of area. And despite the fact us being unconscious or you being unconscious when your heart is actually stopped, your brain, your unconscious mind is still aware of your body. It is still making all of the other functions continue. And what it must be like for the unconscious mind to suddenly lose control of the heart, because the heart and the mind interact all the time. The heart, what happens in the heart is understood by the brain, and then the brain will send messages to the heart to speed up, slow down, hence the fight or flight. It causes all the blood flow to come from your extremities to your legs so that you can run away as quickly as possible. You lose control of your bowel, your bladder when you're scared and frightened, because your body wants to evacuate everything, so you're lighter and more nimble on your feet. There's loads of it. And I personally think that there is a practical physiological part of it, but I think it's the unconscious mind and something that has not been rectified, evened out, smoothed out, recognized, that's going on that causes it. But
yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Anything you said, I can totally understand and relate to. And I think I've done a bit of research into it myself, because it was something in which I come across purely by accident. So if anyone's watching from any of the groups, I found a Facebook group which was to do with bypass, people that had gone through bypass and the Zipper Club and all that sort of stuff. And they talked about it an awful lot. The anxiety, the sense of loss, mourning yourself, even though you're not dead, but you sort of lost something, and
it's the life that you had.
Yeah, it is. And I think this is the weird part, is that, and this is why I've made a big deal about saying it's a journey, is because there are lots of elements within our life's journey from birth to death where things change, elements around us change, or we change, our feelings change, etc. And this is no different. But one of the overwhelming reasons it's not talked about so much, certainly by surgeons, is because there's this little box of tricks that does all this work, that if they should turn around and say, well, we're going to switch that on, however, the side effects for switching that on might be X, Y, Z, and D, I think people would be very, very twitchy, and I think certainly insurance companies would be way twitchy. So, and also to research this, you've got to find candidates that are healthy pre-heart attack, pre-heart journey, to then be able to make that comparison, which it's impossible to do. So I can see why it's so vaguish, if you like, but certainly for me, fatigue, again, same as you, fatigue is awful. I've never suffered from fatigue in any way. I used to do 17, 18-hour days, not in a row, but I used to do quite a few of them, have a very short period of time off and then back straight on it again. I've always been a fairly confident person, although a bit of a mask involved in that, if I'm totally honest. But now my confidence has been devastated. My abilities have been devastated. My anxiety, my concerns, devastated. My ability to switch from reasonably peaceful to full on I'm going to kill you mode is a nanosecond. I've had a short fuse, don't get me wrong, but never ever that fuse has been non-existent, which is where I'm sort of at. So that's tiring in itself, just making sure you don't go for no reason, and all of those sort of things. And certainly with the Pumphead Facebook group that I got involved with and talking to, and I quote the magnetic field thing from, because that's something that they found and they've talked about, etc. I found it really, really useful to read and understand, but more than anything else, connect to people that felt similar to me, because no one really gets it until they've got it.
Facebook groups saved my life, literally, because again, my circumstance is slightly different, because I couldn't actually go to rehab. I couldn't get out of the house. I didn't see anybody. But I can remember the early days, 2016, there weren't very many groups at all. But I found one, and just sitting and reading and seeing that other people were going through the same things as I was, that their meds caused the same side effects that mine did, that their personalities had changed since they'd had their heart attack, cardiac arrest, because it doesn't actually make, it's not one thing or the other, it's all of the cardiac events. Even heart failure in itself, there's not the trauma of something happening to you, but it is still traumatic in the, actually, I thought I was going to live forever. So there is the community element, the sharing, the connection is so important. And I have to say that, you know, it was a gentleman who one day I was brave enough to actually put a message in the group to say that I just didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to stop feeling so bad. And he said, give me a number, I'll give you a call. And we had a half-hour conversation, and he literally turned my life around, because I actually heard somebody who was speaking my language. So, like, you know, you can't do without these groups. You know, and whether they're, because like British Heart Foundation, I don't know if this is worldwide, but British Heart Foundation does have in-person community groups up and down the country, but they are few and far between. Yeah. I think there should be a lot more of them, so people can actually share their experiences. But a case of getting volunteers to run them, and that is pretty hard work for the charity, I would imagine. So
yeah, it is. And you know, while we're talking about charities, well, I have to give a shout out to the charity that I volunteer for, Models for Heroes, and pre heart attack and all that, I was a volunteer, and I work with beneficiaries with mental health issues and stuff. I'm a mental health first aider, so I feel sometimes that I'm quite armed and got my armor and all that sort of stuff, but I was astonished by the beneficiaries and the volunteers and the amount of support they were willing to give me back through my journey, and still do. And that's why, one of the reasons why I'm doing this, but also one of the reasons on this channel why I'm doing the big diorama build and all that sort of stuff, which I won't talk about right now, but check it out. It's on the thing. But that's all part of the journey, and that's part of the healing journey for me, and my coping mechanisms is that I decided that I was going to do a big scale model diorama, and I'm going to involve the community that helped me in any way I possibly can, by doing roundtables, by getting them to do some painting. I actually handed out a load of figures, funny enough, a couple of weeks ago, to people that wanted to do them, and they're going to paint the figures for me that go onto the diorama, so they could show in a small way their help and support that they've given throughout the journeys. They're there, they're featured, literally featured, because that's really, really important to me, that they've been part of the journey and they still will be part of the journey. So that brings us nicely on to talking about coping mechanisms and resilience and how we build that sort of thing. What advice, with your heart and mind stuff that you do and all that sort of stuff, what things would you put in, or could you suggest that we could help us cope and be more resilient during this journey?
Okay, so I can tell. So I'll start off by telling you how I started to pull myself out of the depths of despair, and it was a really quite simple idea. You mentioned purpose. I had lost my purpose. I had lost hope, and I had no energy. I didn't know what direction I was going in. So it was, you know, it's about time I pulled myself together a little bit, paid attention to what I practice and preach to other people. So I started by using meditation, breath work, and affirmations. And it was a case of, no matter what there was going on and how ill I was, I had no reason why I couldn't use my breath work, and I couldn't meditate and have positive words in my head instead of the negativity and the fear that was going on. Yeah. So I literally, and it became part of my routine of, I would get up, I'd have breakfast, I would take my meds, I would then go and meditate. And it wasn't a traditional meditation as you might hear about it. It was very, very simple. It started with breath work. So I would just sit still and I would start to breathe, and I would box breathe, which I don't know whether everybody's aware of that, but it's literally, you breathe in to the count of 4, hold for the count of 4, exhale for the count of 4, and hold for the count of 4. So it's like a box as you're going round. And the reason why this, and we take breathing for granted, but it is one of the key things that helps us manage our mental state. The focus with your breath is you're actually bringing in oxygen, and you are taking your focus from away from everything but to the count, so you're not thinking about the negativity. And by breathing regularly in that pattern, it can help just calm the body. An extra tip is actually, if you do a different kind of breathing, which is an inhale, hold it, and then exhale long and slow, longer than your inhale, that actually triggers the relaxation. So where you've got the sympathetic nervous system, that is the fight or flight, parasympathetic is rest and digest. Okay. And when we are at peace, we tend to kind of just give a bit of a sigh. So that then tells the brain to calm. But going back to what I was doing myself, it was I used the 4 because it was easy and simple to focus on. I'd close my eyes and I would just focus on my breath work using my stomach to breathe, not just from my chest, but from my stomach as well. And I would choose to say an affirmation. And I read a book called The Luck Factor, and I found myself being lucky because of the way that everything happened in my life. So I just used to chant to myself in my head, I am lucky. I am so very lucky. I am always lucky. Something lucky will happen to me. I won't know what it is until it happens. And I just kind of chant that over and over and over again in my own head. And I'd do it for 5 minutes, not 20 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, depending on how I felt. And that was my first step into having a purpose. And I then added on to that one small thing that I could do each day. And at the time, mine was emails. I couldn't go near my inbox or deal with anything straight after my heart attack. But I promised myself I would sit for 10 minutes and do my emails. It exhausted me. But by the time I'd got to the end of the day, I could look back and know that I'd done my breath work, I'd done my meditation, I'd used my affirmations, and I had done something, which then started to pull myself out of the sadness that I was feeling, the grief over what I was feeling. And they're very simple techniques.
Yeah.
So
and I think it's also very important that we acknowledge in this journey the grief side of things. There is a grief element. Yes, you've not passed away. Of course you've not. Your heart, what was it? One of the consultants said to me at some point, your heart is now 20 years younger. Great. My body feels 20 years older. So to try and connect those two in my head is almost impossible. Still, sort of 19 months on, really, sort of thing. I still struggle with that an awful lot. But breathing definitely is something. I mean, I have done that sort of breathing. It was something actually we did in rehab, which is really important. If you get the opportunity or asked to do rehab, you should definitely 100% do it, because it's amazingly simple, but amazingly insightful for you to understand just how the small little changes that you do make a massive difference. And that is all what the journey at that point is. When you're coming out of surgery and you're getting through the recovery part, the small bits are what's to focus on. Don't worry about the big things in life. They'll still be there when you get past the small bits. Trust me, they will be. But certainly with purpose, making sure you've got a purpose, making sure you set a goal, as crazy as it might sound, walk to the end of the road and back.
Or even the first lamppost. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It can just, because then you can know that you can go a little bit further next time.
Absolutely.
And that's why sorry, I was going to say your models, the model making is such a fantastic. I often say to people, do start something that isn't necessarily getting out there physically, but something that you can do a little bit of it and add to it, and you have something at the end of it. And when you told me about the charity work, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, fabulous.
Yeah,
But
we'll touch on that in a minute or two, because what I wanted to just make sure we got across was, obviously one of the things I was told, and I'm sure you were told, walk, a bit more walk, and a bit more walk after that. So I live in a village, and I remember talking to my consultant saying, he said, no, sorry, the nurse, when we were doing the rehab, she said, oh, how's your walking going? I said, well, yeah, no, it's going okay, but I really have got to the point where I can't walk around the village too much more. And she said, oh, are you struggling? It's like, no, I'm not struggling, but my neighbours are, because they keep seeing me go past their window, and they're starting to wonder, who's this weird bloke keep walking around the village? And I did stop for a little while, but it was really important that I didn't do that, because it made a lot of difference. I'm fortunate that like I say, I've got the model making, and I'd set those sort of goals, which we'll touch in a second. I just want to quickly catch up with the chat. So, Scale Model Craft is there. He says dreams after his heart attack are a constant and never expected, indeed. And that's recent too. This young gentleman, a similar sort of circumstance, was taken ill and wasn't aware that he was actually ill. So who knew?
But I think the meds have something to do with the dreams, along with the trauma of it. When we sleep, that's when our brain is repairing itself. It's when our bodies are repairing ourselves, which is why when we've had a heart attack or surgery, we sleep a lot more afterwards, because it's trying to just get everything to settle down, and it comes out in our dreams. Mine did settle down after a while, but I still have dreams that just feel like they're so real when I wake up. And they're not the sort of dreams that you'd want to be having. So I totally understand that.
I can put into words one of the dreams I had when I was in hospital, which was medically induced, some of it, I think. But, I remember vivid parts of the dream, and one of the parts I remember the dream was the people that were in the ward with me were coming in and out of the wall. Literally coming in and out of the wall, and if you can imagine someone with cling film over their face going through, you've seen it in movies 100 times, but I could have sworn that was true. I didn't know if that was a patient, staff, no idea, and it scared the bejesus out of me because I've never had something so vivid. And a month or so later, I'm still getting bits, not quite as vivid, but certainly bits. And like you say, I think that's right. I think it's all about you processing this amazing event and the traumity of it all, and all that sort of stuff. And please, I know I've used the term on here as man enough to talk. It's a play. It really isn't a dig at men. I know women that are the same. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to discuss it because they feel they're not in control as soon as they they start talking about it. But actually, it's the opposite. The more you talk about it, the more open you are about it, the more you share, the more you realize that actually you're in control more than not speaking about it. So it's really important you talk about it. One more comment I'm just going to pop up there from Joe. He said I have not experienced a heart attack. I can't imagine the physical or mental process involved. And that in itself is really interesting, because obviously part of the journey in which I've gone through is my wife's journey. Watching her deal with me on this journey is, if you're a reflective sort of person, you probably would relate to what I'm saying. But if you're not, you're probably thinking I'm obviously back on the drugs. But the impact is not just to you; it's to all the people around you. And that's why when you look at these Facebook groups and talk with people, there's a lot of occasions where people are like, well, our marriage split, and my girlfriend didn't look after me, and that caused resentment. Everybody you have any contact with, it will affect this part of your journey, and amazing amount. So what about resilience? What about keeping up your resilience? What tips you got for us there, Sallie?
So resilience is something that we teach ourselves by getting up and doing it again. Whatever it is, it's that repetition. People think that there's a a cure, that resilience is a cure, but it's not. It's what goes on in our heads. It's our own internal self-talk. I mean, how many people talk to themselves? Back in the olden days, everybody would go, no, not me, because that's madness. But we have this running dialogue that is all the time in our heads. And if your dialogue is, my body let me down, it's never going to work again, I'm never going to be the person that I was before, it's all my fault, I did this to myself because I smoked, because I overate, blah, 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 blah. That is what gives us the opportunity to not get up and fight again. And being aware of our self-talk is key to resilience. I mean, I've been through a number of things, and a lot of the time people around me go, oh my God, yet another thing. How do you pick yourself up and move on? And I don't actually have a real answer, apart from the fact, and I said this to you earlier, James, that I can't change the past. So I'm not going to worry about all the what ifs and all the rest of it. And the future hasn't happened yet. So I can't actually make plans. I can go, well, if this happens, then I'm going to do A, B, C. But once I've decided, it's no good me keep ruminating it over and over it. I live in the now. Yeah. What am I in control of? What can I influence? And if it's outside of my influence, there is nothing I can do. So I try not to use my energy. But there is, I mean, if I've got time to give you a couple of tips, and I'll send to you, James, a printout so that people can actually download some other ideas as well. But there's a couple of techniques that I found really helpful. When your mind is in the past or the future, bring it back to the now by doing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it starts off, you just look and find 5 things around you that you can see, and you name them as you're looking at them. So I can see a speaker, I can see books, I can see a cup, pens and pencils, paper. I could go on for ages what's in this room. The next thing is you look for 4 things that you can touch. So that could be the desk that I'm sitting at, it could be my hair, and you say them out loud, what they are, the chair that I'm sitting on, etc. Then it goes to the 3, and that's what you hear around you. So sitting here now, I can hear my central heating in the background, I can hear James's voice when he's speaking to me, and I can hear the traffic outside. 2 is what you can smell. So you'd go and find something that you can smell. I've just had a cup of tea, so I can pick my cup up and smell my cup of tea. I'm wearing perfume, so I can smell my own perfume. And then 1 is what you can taste. And that could just be the taste in your mouth from the last cup of coffee you had, or anything. And the trick of it all is your mind is distracted away from all of those ruminations and everything. It brings you back into the now. You have changed your thoughts because you're looking at certain things, you're being directed, and by the time you've been through all of the lot, you will be feeling better. And if you're not, then do some deep breaths and let it relax. And then another thing that is really easy to do, and you can do this, well, you can do that one wherever you are, because nobody really needs to know that you're doing it. It's like the spiral of 12. So I'm going to try and show you. And it is literally, you create, so you've got 3 pads on your fingers, and you just start by tapping top, 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 middle, bottom, 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 middle, 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 and you've done 12 taps. And if you do that a few times, you don't have to do it up in the air, you can do it by your sides. You concentrate on doing that. That brings you back to the now, which is where you are at your most powerful, where you are at your most resilient, because your feelings are driven by your thoughts, and your thoughts create your behaviors and your actions, whereas this just gives you a pause. But resilience in and of itself is actually having the fear and doing it anyway. And I know that's a quote from a book, but it literally is. We go through so much stuff in life, and we survive it all. So anything that you think at that time you're not going to be able to cope with, you do cope. And it's having that as a memory. So hopefully that's more helpful and answers your question about resilience.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I think one of the things in which is important, or has been important for me, is a lot of people always ask that first question they ask when they haven't seen you for a while. Oh, how are you feeling? How are you?
Ooh.
You know, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but it's not really a question that I'm going to answer properly because I might scare you. But more importantly, actually, I generally will, and this is genuine. This isn't made up. I generally will answer it with I woke up this morning, so I've achieved my goal.
Mm.
And it really is as simple as that, you know.
One more day above ground.
Exactly. Reflecting on what you just said about, you know, you can't change yesterday and you know, being in the present, etc. And that really is it. My memory is awful. Don't get me wrong, my memory was never great, but I literally could forget what I'm doing before I even stood up. And it's scary. So like a good example was a couple of days ago, I went upstairs to get changed. Had some clothes. I would just wear joggies and whatever around the house. So I went upstairs, got changed. Well, I say I got changed. It took me 5 attempts to get changed because I went upstairs and went, oh, what have I come up here for? I haven't got a clue. Oh well. And even to the point, embarrassingly to say, I got half changed and still went, what am I doing? Oh, I'll go back downstairs. I can't even process that. It really can't. So I've now got a diary. I write lists, and Malcolm's watching. Who is my co-host for a Just Spent Conversation, and he'll tell you that I've meant to have sent someone something months ago, and I've written it down a billion times, and I've still not sent it. Although I have to say it's literally behind me, and it's going tomorrow because I've made sure it's ready. But so I make these lists, and as stupid as it sounds, top of every day, first one on the list is wake up, because then I've got the opportunity to make tomorrow what I want it to be, to make the day what I want it to be. I don't have to worry about yesterday because yesterday happened, like you say. I've got no control over it. It's done. I can't change anything. If something went well, woohoo. If it went bad, I can't change that, whatever. But now I've woken up. Now is the moment I can have the biggest impact. And that is what's on the top of my list every day. So, and the main reason for that, and anyone that tells you this, right, it says, oh, make a list. They should always say to you, write down something you've done as well. So if you're in the middle of the day and you've got up, you've made breakfast, you cut the grass, whatever, put that on your list, because you can tick that straight off. And there's nothing more positive than looking at a list with a tick on it. So I make that list, wake up in the morning, tick, thank you very much.
See, I take it one step further because I'm a lists person, and I think lists are very important when you're coming through health recovery, because it's part of that, doing those small things every day that starts to build into something else. But I tick things as I do them, and then at the end of the day I get my list and I cross through them, so I get a double dopamine hit. Because that's what it does. It's that achievement. You've set a goal, you've moved towards it, you've done it, and I like to know that I've done it twice.
Oh, you know what, I've never thought about doing it that. But you're right. It would give you that same feeling. And I've never put a chemical to it either. But
don't get me started about brain chemicals.
So we've been chatting for an hour already, and we could, I no doubt, chat forever and a day. Guys that are watching, thank you first of all for being with us. And you're putting comments in. I'm highlighting as best as I can. But obviously, we wanted to give you the opportunity to ask us any questions. So if you've got a question, please pop it in the chat and we'll answer it. That would be amazing, to have that little bit of interaction. We're not going to spend an awful lot of time on it, and I'm sort of saying this without a previous conversation with Sallie as such, but depending on what the reaction is to this, depends on what we do next. We may do another one together. I certainly have got plans to do some with some other people that I've reached out to. But yeah, throw some questions in, and we'll go with the flow for the next couple of minutes, 5 minutes or so, and then we'll bring it to an end. If that's okay with you, Sally. Sorry,
Oh, absolutely.
I just assumed you'd be fine with that. Yes, we do have a question there as it happens. So any suggestions about getting lists going? So motivating yourself once you've started the list.
Okay. Oh, well, so the pulling your lists together. This is just how I do it. So if I was going to start listing things, I would write down all of the things that I want to do, got to do, have to do, must do, and then take the ones that so if there's anything that people are putting off that you know that you must do, they would go onto my to-do list to get them done. However, I then make mine into categories. So I have different categories for my list. So I have my work list, I have my home list, I have my holiday list kind of thing, hobbies lists, and I prioritize what I want to do on those days, and then I do a carry forward, particularly because I like the crossings out and the ticking thing. But one of the best tips that I can give you about starting when you've got your list is there's the passive one, which is you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you do it. You take the first small thing towards doing it. You can count back. It doesn't matter which way you count. And the other thing is you jump up and down, wiggle your body around a few times, take a breath, and then take one of the things on it. And again, so if you're going to clear out the kitchen, that would be one of the things on the list. You're not going to do all of the kitchen in one day. You're just going to choose one drawer, and you're just going to do that drawer. And then you will be motivated, because that's another thing that comes from lists. Motivation isn't something you get. Motivation is something that comes to you when you start doing something. You can't have it before you start, but as soon as you start, you get motivated. So I love those questions.
Yeah, it's a great question, and also the motivation thing is really weird, because as a hobbyist, we had this question come up, loads of, what when I lose the inspiration to do model making in this genre, what do I do, and all that sort of thing, and I've never ever until this event ever thought anything different other than, if I'll find the motivation because it's in a box on the shelf. I know I've got one somewhere, and it's not. It really isn't. I still struggle with that. Personally, for me, it says one of these. I've got a diary, so I'm forced to write on a day. I don't have a list for a different list. I used to have loads of lists, but I always used to forget where the lists were, so I'd write another list. But what is I write on here in different color pen, depending on or whether it's work related or home related or YouTube related or whatever, as it happens on here. As I just opened up the page, I didn't do that, damn it. Anyway, but yeah, and in answer to your question is that, I mean, it's come up. Crazy Locher has made a comment about it. He has a small notebook in his pocket. It gives us the ability to reflect. A big notebook on his deck, workbench, etc. And Matthew says that I think just doing a diary would help. Absolutely. But I think the one of the big things with so for me, obviously my memory and the impact that this fusion thingy's had on me, if I don't write something down, I will forget. But because it's in a diary and I wrote it down on that day, I can always look back at the jobs in which I wanted to achieve at some point, and I can see those notes and go, oh yeah, I forgot. No, I've got to do that. I've got to pay the tax man, or I've got to put the cat out, or is it put the milk out? I can never quite remember.
Probably both.
Yeah. So that gives you the ability to actually reflect on the day ahead and the day you've done. which, if you think about it logically, decompressing after a day at work or just a day generally is really, really important. And it's one of the things that you find when you're in a couple scenario or a family scenario. You decompress. You how did your day go, darling? How did this happen? What did that? And you decompress. You talk about it. When you're single, you don't have that ability. Or if you live alone, you don't have that ability to necessarily to decompress. So you might phone a friend, but of course you're feeling down. You feel unmotivated. So you're not phoning your friend. By keeping a diary, by keeping notes of what jobs you're meant to do, etc., it gives you the ability to decompress and release some of the tensions that are just sitting in your body without you even realizing. And it's in paper form, which you can screw up and throw away if you want to. So that would be my personal thing. And yeah, definitely that how do you start the list? How do you start the jobs on the list sort of thing is pick something that's achievable. That's all you need. It's just something that's achievable. And it could be go make a cup of coffee, empty the bin, or move that paint pot from there to there, whatever. It could be such a small thing, and all of a sudden, well, you know, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And I can tell you this from experience because I have my list upon list upon list upon list. I got a load of stuff to review. Oh, it's too much. I don't know what to do. How do I start? As soon as I do one thing, actually, it's not as bad as I thought.
No? I tend to highlight the 2 or 3 things that I really want to do. And then when I achieve them, that gives me the motivation to carry on doing the other. But can I just go back to what you were saying about decompressing?
Yeah.
Because that is a really important point about talking about resilience as well, because it's that sharing, it's that connection, that it's that getting it out from inside. And we're talking about men as well here. So this is, you're all going to go, oh, journaling. A lot of men think journaling is keeping a diary like 14-year-old girls used to do, and it isn't. I'll give you a man's idea, and it was a guy that I interviewed on a podcast who said this to me. He said, I call it pooping on paper, because it isn't a little girl thing. It is getting your thoughts out in writing, and writing, like journaling, it doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be short. When I journal, you don't even have to have a prompt. You can literally just freestyle it. And when I journal, I set a timer for 10 minutes, only 10 minutes, and then I start writing, whether it be the freestyle or on a topic or whatever, because I don't have to stop and look at the clock, because I know it's going to tell me. But it allows me to get all of my thoughts outside, and even outside of me. And even if I don't know what to write, I write. I don't know what to write next. And it's surprising that it does go on for you. But that is definitely a way of managing your feelings and your emotions and not keeping them bottled up inside.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, as a model maker, the charity that I work in, and our emphasis on scale model making, obviously that is part of our decompression. It's the ability to switch off all the noise that's going on in your head, and have that moment of peace, relaxation, and concentrating on something. But I find, because I'm doing a model, I'm being productive, and it makes me feel that I've achieved something. I haven't really, but if you look around at the moment, I'm not achieving much at all. But it just the fact that I've gone through that process. I mean, we've been to a big show just recently. I've thrown all everything in here. I've literally, because I knew this was happening, over the last couple of days, I've tidied up and I've cleaned everything up. I can now see workspace that I can actually do stuff on, and blah blah blah. But that's made me feel really, really invigorated and happy. I've not achieved anything other than declutter, and that's pretty much what you're doing by writing stuff down. Is you're decluttering what's in here, or making a model and concentrating on something and thinking about it. You're just trying to declutter the mind sufficiently enough to then go forward and do whatever it is you're going to do that next moment or next day, etc. And decompressing is so important. And if you haven't got the ability to do that with a loved one, because they're at work or whatever, that you must find a way. You must train yourself to find a way to decompress and take that away from you. I'm just going to have a quick look on here. What is that? So I've got oldies of Indiana Jones style journals. Yeah, they're empty. Yeah, no, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a journal person. I went through a very stressful time back in 2000. I had my first breakdown, and I was told by somebody, do a journal, write down your thoughts. I started, it wasn't really something I enjoyed doing, but I get it. It works, does work. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes as well. So start with some lists. Right, any other questions out there to those that are watching? Thank you very much for all your interactions. It's been amazing. I think I've highlighted everything that has been said. So if we are in a position where we're sort of wrapping up, is there sort of like something in which you want to, what is the one message that you'd like to get across today and leave us with if we got to that point?
So it just comes down to me, it's like life is worth living. It is, no matter what we think and what we say to ourselves about whether we can or we can't, we're right. There was some famous American guy that said that. I can't remember. Henry Ford said it. Yeah. And my message would definitely be, if you wouldn't say what you're saying to yourself in your head to a friend, then why are you saying it to yourself? Because we are mean to ourselves. We wouldn't let anybody else talk to us the way that we talk to ourselves. And it is that voice in your head that will often stop you living and enjoying the life that you deserve. So I think that would be how I'd like to live it. And do not be scared of talking, because you said that early on, James. You know, it's only when we stuff it all down inside us that it becomes unmanageable. When we share with friends and family, or even in a Facebook group like mine or James's, it helps, because you know you're not alone, because somebody's going to give you a thumbs up or a little heart or something. So yeah, community is what it's all about.
Absolutely. There is another question actually, it's just come in there. What are the things that made a big positive difference in your recovery, sort of like a wow moment? We'll quickly cover that. Sallie, what about yourself in your journey? Has there been a wow moment?
Yes, I do. I mean, I briefly touched on it earlier, which was I read the book, The Luck Factor, during my recovery. It was a book that sat on my shelf for absolutely forever. I'd had it for ages and ages and ages. I just thought, I'm going to sit and read it. As I read through it, it was realizing just how lucky I had been through the whole of my life. And I'll give you an example of, like, around my heart attack. I ruptured my Achilles doing martial arts, which put me in a plaster cast. I was injecting myself with Fragmin that was thinning my blood. I had a heart attack that I survived because I was on the Fragmin. If I hadn't have been, I would not have survived it. My friend came to visit me because I was too scared to leave the house. She told me about her being called back for a mammogram. It made me think, oh, I've not checked my breasts. And that goes for you guys as well. It's not just women. And I found a lump. I then hid my head in the sand, but went back to my GP eventually. And it turned out that I didn't have breast cancer in that breast, but because they scanned both of them, I actually had breast cancer in my left breast. And wow. Again, if I'd waited 5 years, which would have been when my next mammogram would have been, my prognosis would have been a whole bunch different there as well. And so I said it was a real, oh my God moment that made me go, yes, I am lucky. And that, you know, if you look back on your life, lots of lots of not so good things happen. We don't know why they're happening. But when we stop in the future and turn around and look back, we realise that all the good stuff that we've got now couldn't have happened if that hadn't happened in the first place. So sorry, that was a long way of answering that question.
It's good. It's good to illustrate, and that's it's a very good illustration you give. For me, a wow moment has been, still is, really the obviously the fact that I decided to do this project, and so many people got involved with it, and it's a constant wow, really. The community I'm very fortunate to be a part of, in the modelling community, and the way we look after each other without actually doing very much, but we do look after each other, is forever something in which will make me speechless, which anyone that knows me knows that's not easy to do. So that's probably my wow moment. And I suppose the only other wow moment I related to earlier was wow, I can't believe that I thought this was going to be easy. And it sounds like a negative. It's not. It really isn't. It's actually a positive, because it's like, see, it just reminds you that life isn't something that's given to you. It's something you have to fight for, and it's something you have to work hard for every single day of the week. And that's a good reminder, a really good reminder. So yeah, that again reflects back to I woke up this morning comment. Yeah, it's just making any negative into a positive. Anyway, we're going for an hour and 20 minutes, Sally. I can't believe it's been that long already. Yeah, you and me both. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to be kind and wrap it up here. So thank you for your thoughts there and what you wanted to leave us with. I want to leave everybody that's watching with some other my thoughts on this. Obviously, pick up a model, spend some time to yourself, and be kind to yourself. And remember, by taking, even if it's just 5 minutes, to sit and look at a box of models, whatever, or whatever interest you have, give yourself 5 minutes every day to decompress and to have that you moment, because it will make all the difference in the world. And obviously, talk. Don't be shy. Talk about things. You'll be amazed how much goes on around you that you're completely unaware of, and the only way you'll find out is by literally speaking. Or, which I don't have with me, which is really annoying, I wish I could show. I have a social battery badge, which is it's literally the shape of a battery, and it goes from red to green, and you've got a slider that you move up and down, and it tells everybody that's looking at you where you are on yourself, whether I want to talk to someone or not, generally. However, you'd be amazed how many people actually check in and go, "You're right, how you doing?" People you see all the time that never talk to you will stop and go, "I see your battery's a bit low. Are you all right?" And it really is refreshing to see that humanity is well and truly out there. We all walk around like this most of the time. But anyway, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I don't know what we're going to do next. There will be another episode. I'll be totally honest with you. It probably be after the Christmas period, because I haven't organised anything, and also fitting stuff in, and you being available to watch it as well. I'm sure you've got some stockings to fill and presents to wrap. Have some great time with the family. And if you are in the unfortunate position of not having family around you, remember there is a community online out there that will be more than happy to share some time with you. So don't be shy. Drop us a line. And on that note, I must say, you have a website, Sally?
Yes, I do. That's the one.
myheartandmind.co.uk. What can they find on there?
So I write blog articles. So whilst I help people who have had heart attacks, heart surgery, etc., it's not the actual practical side of the diet, exercise, what you would expect. My help and support is all about the mental health. So it doesn't matter whether you've had a heart attack or not. What I talk about, you could swap out the words heart attack and drop in cancer, broken leg, divorce, etc., and it will still resonate with you. So I write blogs. You'll find podcasts on there that you can listen to while you're walking the walk or driving, links to free resources and my Facebook groups. And there's also some paid options if you wanted to work with me one-to-one, although I am actually starting a membership, which will be a lot cheaper than working with me one-to-one, where it will be regular information on a weekly basis to build community, to help learn and teach. So there you go. You'll find lots of stuff.
Wow. There you go. That's more than I thought you were going to say, but that's great.
Sorry.
That's right. That's great. You didn't tell me about the packages bits and pieces. That's brilliant. What a great idea. Yeah. No. Reach out to Sallie. As you noticed, we both can talk forever, but we're there to help, and any advice we can give and point you in the right direction, we will. If you are somebody that hasn't had a heart attack or a heart journey yet, but you know someone that has, this is all relevant to you still. It's not about don't smoke. It's not about don't eat too much. It's not about don't do the exercise, all that. None about that. The information is there for you to help you understand the journey that your loved one's going to go through or is going through. And believe you me, there will be a lot of time where you'll need to turn around and find that advice, because it can be very confusing seeing someone you love go through this journey and not understand what this person is become or is at that moment. So really important. So thank you, Sallie, for your time. Thank you everyone for watching and being part of this discussion. I hope it's been some benefit. If you are watching this not live, then please put a comment. Any questions you want to put in the comments of the YouTube, by all means do. I will try my best to answer them as quickly as I can. If I haven't got an answer, and maybe Sallie has, I will email her and ask her opinion, see what she wants to say, and we'll share that with you as much as we can. But until next time, it's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Until next time, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Bye-bye now.